Okay, thank you. Turn the light off. Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. Hi everyone, I'm Chen from Newcastle University. My topic today is about some reviews of the atmospheric correction approaches for InSAR measurement. So we are not going into the very detailed methodologies for each measurement, but only look at the currently available correction models and their advantages and disadvantages, and most importantly, the performances of each measure. So you can have a big picture. So what is atmospheric correction and how to deal with the atmospheric errors in your program. And so what is atmospheric delay? This is a very basic background of what is atmospheric delay. This is a picture of showing how the SAR satellite works. The signal from the SAR sensors traveling from the satellite towards the Earth's surface. And because we assume the signal traveling in a very constant speed, so we can measure the traveling time of the signal and we can measure the distance between these 2 points. But actually, because of the troposphere and the ionosphere of the Earth, the traveling path of the signal has been distorted. And also, the speed of the signal is not a constant. Sometimes it's being accelerated and sometimes it's being slowed. So all these effects will result in the atmospheric delay. There are 2 parts in the atmospheric delay. First is the ionospheric delay, which is squared inverse related to the frequency. I think this is another topic, also a very active research area. But today we are only focused on the tropospheric delay, which is independent with frequency. In fact, the atmospheric delay we are talking about is the sum of the ionospheric delay and the tropospheric delay. But in the literatures, if you look at the literatures or some papers or some reference books, you will find we often call the tropospheric delay as the atmospheric delay. But we should always remember that the ionospheric delay is also very important. This lecture will only focus on the tropospheric delay. The basic structure of the troposphere, it contains 80% of the air mass and also contains 99% of the water vapor. So the what causes the tropospheric delay is the air pressure, including the dry air and the wet air pressure, and the temperature, and mostly importantly, the water vapor. These 3 factors causes the tropospheric delay. The magnitude of the tropospheric delay reaches 1.5 to 3 meters in zenith direction, and even larger in the line of sight direction. Typically, it has the hydrostatic component and the wet component, but both of these components are related to the water vapor. So this is what's the atmospheric delay. So what's the atmospheric effects on InSAR measurement? Firstly, we should know that InSAR measurements are firstly difference in time. So the phase measurement is actually a difference phase between the master date and the slave date. If these 2 dates have a very identical troposphere, so there will be no atmospheric delays on your program. But if the first date, if the master date has a very quiet troposphere, but the slave date has a very extreme weather conditions such as rainfall or storm, so there will be a very serious tropospheric effect on the interprogram. And secondly, the phase measurement are also different in space. So on each interprogram, you will have a reference point. All the phase measurements are referenced on that reference point. If you change the reference point from the red star from here to here, you will got a completely different interprogram. But actually, these are the same interprogram. To conclude, we know that the InSAR measurement are actually spatial temporally difference. So it is the spatial temporally difference atmospheric delay that affects our InSAR measurement, not the absolute value. To see how the water vapor can be spatial temporally variated, here are some examples from some models and Mary's CHS data. They give very high resolution water vapor maps. The first map is Mary's water vapor map at 6 p.m. And the second is from models on the same day, but at 7 p.m. There are 65 minutes time differences. And the third map is the difference of these two maps. You can see there are very limited water vapor variations during this 1 hour period. So you will expect there will be no obvious tropospheric errors on your interprogram. But here is another example. The first map is also from Mary's at 6 p.m. and the second one is from models on the same day. There are 15 minutes time difference, but you can see even shorter, the very short time differences, we can still expect a very large tropospheric water vapor differences around 5 centimeters. So there is very strong local variations of the water vapor. Some of them are related to the topography, and some of them are just turbulence signals. So this is why it is important of the water vapor variation. And the magnitude of the atmospheric effects on InSAR can be very large. This is an example of the one interprogram. What you can see from the original interprogram is actually all come from tropospheric delays, not ground motions. When you calibrated it, you got a residual map, which is actually there's no obvious ground motions. So the actual ground motions can be easily masked by this large tropospheric delay. To conclude the background, we know that it is spatial temporal variations in the water vapor temperature or pressure that results in the atmospheric effects, not the absolute value. And the magnitude of the tropospheric delay is very big, so it can mask your ground motions very easily. And it has a huge impact on the time series analysis as well. So that is the definition of what is atmospheric delay. So what is the atmospheric effects on InSAR interprogram? What it looks like? Here are some examples tells you how to identify the atmospheric delays on interprogram. This is some examples in the UK. All of them come from Sentinel-1 interprogram with 12-day interval, and there's obviously no ground motions at this area. This is Southern England. What you can see here is actually all come from the atmospheric delay. Because we use precise orbit, there should be no orbital errors. This is all long wavelength effects. This is one of the typical atmospheric delays on your interprogram. It typically appears only on large interprograms in large areas, and the magnitude can be very huge. It can reach up to 20 centimeters on the interprogram. A lot of fringes on your wrapped interprogram. Another very typical tropospheric effect is the elevation-dependent effects, or the topography-related signals. Here are some examples. It can happen on very large interprograms. For example, it's 250 kilometers in Tibet, and also on very small interprograms, only 8 kilometers, a small landslide. You can see the very serious topography-related signals, which looks like a DM map. This kind of error happens because you have very large topography variation. The water vapor is correlated with the topography, so this is resulting in this kind of error. And another very serious error is the wave effect. Is called the mountain waves or the water vapor waves. It's not very common on interprograms, but can happen on some coastal areas. Like this is in New Zealand, and also it can happen in Italy, in California, where the coastal areas there are also some mountain chains. This is come from the wind and a complicated process between the wind and the water vapor. So it is one of the hardest part to correct. Another effect is the turbulence effect. It's a mixture of all the complicated signals. For example, it may include some topography-related error, or include some long wavelength error, or some turbulence signals in the coastal areas. This is a very small area as well. Sometimes it's random. It's just random, but sometimes it can have some correlations in time and also in space. So it's complicated. So this is just the 4 typical examples of what the atmospheric delay looks like on interprograms. So what we can do is just to propose some measures to deal with this kind of errors. There are typically 2 types of measures. The first type of measure is just use the phase measurement only to extract the atmospheric delays from your phase measurement, to include this one. And the second measure, we rely on some external data sets to estimate the tropospheric delays and correct your interprogram. We will go case by case, go to the details methodology of this measure. The first one of measure type 1 is a linear correlation. It's very simple and efficient. You just assume the atmospheric delays are correlated with elevation. So you can use your phase measurement to estimate A and B in this equation, and then estimate the atmospheric delays. Here are some examples. You can see from these 2 figures. This is the correlations between elevation and your phase measurement. You can see a clear correlation. And this is the original interprogram, which has serious tropospheric delays. And this is a corrected interprogram. And this is the estimated atmospheric delays. It's very similar to the DM map. And we can also validate the performance of this measure by comparing our estimated atmospheric delay and with some water vapor estimates from a better model. You can see a clear correlation between these 2. Agrees very well. And another typical method is you remove the long wavelength signal. You can see this interprogram in the UK also has a very clear long wavelength signal, but the magnitude is very large. And we can use a 2D surface to simulate this signal and remove it. This is after long wavelength signal removal. Also, you can see from this figure, even though even after you have corrected the topography related signal, you still got some long wavelength signal exists. You can still use this measure to remove that long wavelength signal. And this kind of measure can usually applies on large spatial extent interprograms, and very similar to orbital runs. And another more complicated model is power law analysis. When you have very complicated signals or turbulent signals on your interprogram, for example, this 4 interprogram, the tropospheric error on this interprogram are very complicated, are not related to the topography or either not long wavelength. So you can transform the phase measurement from spatial domain to frequency domain. And in frequency domain, the tropospheric delay will follow this simple power law equation. So you can estimate the delays from the phase measurement in frequency domain. This is the residual. So it performs very well at short wavelength signal, but not very well at long wavelength signals. And another power law analysis measure is to relate the phase measurement to the elevation. So you don't have to transform the phase measurement from spatial domain to frequency domain. Just in spatial domain, you can use this equation to estimate the tropospheric delays from your phase measurement. Also, if you have a very large interprogram, you can divide the large interprogram into smaller interprograms and estimate each one by one of the smaller interprograms. So it's a spatial variable power law estimation. You can try this measure on the train toolbox in the following practical session. I think there's a power law analysis in the train toolbox. To conclude all these three methods, the advantage is very simple and easy to implement without any external data. Once you got your program, you can try them directly. But the disadvantage is very obvious. Firstly, it has a large risk to remove extra deformation signals. For example, when you study volcanoes, the volcanic deformation signal can have a very strong correlation with the topography. So if you remove the topography related signal, you will remove some of the extra deformation signal as well. Secondly, it can be contaminated by other error sources. So when you have a combination of the error from orbital, from DM, or from ground motion, it will be hard to estimate to extract the atmospheric delays from this combination of errors. Sometimes it also relies on manual interactions. For example, if you have very large intervals, you have to divide them in divide it in smaller intervals. But the best size of the smaller interval is very hard to decide, and also you will have some discontinuities when you divide them. So it requires the manual interaction. Sometimes it's not possible to do it correctly. To overcome this kind of disadvantages, we introduce this second type of method. So we using external data rather than use space measurement itself. There are typically three types of external data we can use. Firstly, the space-based water vapor measurement. For example, from the MARIS satellite, from MODIS, or from Sentinel-3, which are very new satellites. And we have also ground-based measurement from the GPS receivers or from radio sounds and any other ground-based sensors. And also we have weather models, which is very popular now from ECMWF or from WRF model and some local weather models as well. And the first one I will introduce is the MARIS and the MODIS-based correction models. These two satellites provide very high-resolution water vapor maps at global coverage, but only have one-day temporal resolution. The MARIS satellite has been expired around 2010, but the MODIS data is still alive. So you can use MODIS for Sentinel if you want. This is some examples of MARIS and MODIS water vapor maps. This is from September, this is from June in 2004, and this is the difference of these two. You can see here, there are some gaps of the data. This is because of the cloud. So when there is cloud above the sky, you will have no data of that area. And here is the example of using MARIS to correct your interprogram. This is the original interprogram. You can see here and here very clear noises from the atmosphere. And after MARIS water vapor correction, you will have this smooth fringes, which is come from the orbital because we don't have precise orbit for this satellite. And after remove these orbital ramps, we got a very clean interprogram free of atmospheric error. So it's a very successful correction examples to use MARIS. And here's another example of using MODIS data. This is original program. This is from the this is after correction. You can still see some residuals after correction, which probably come from the dry component because the MODIS only provides wet component of the atmospheric delay. So the drawbacks of MARIS and MODIS is very obvious. Because MARIS and MODIS only provide water vapor, which is a wet component of the atmospheric delay. You can see from this, the blue dot is wet component, and the black dot is a phase measurement, and the yellow dot is a hydrostatic component. So when you combine these two, you got a very similar pattern of total atmospheric delay and against the phase measurement. So the conclusion is that the hydrostatic delay component, the dry component, is also very important So which it cannot be provided by the Morris and Morris data. And another drawbacks of Morris model is the cloud. Only the Morris and Morris data only valid on cloud-free conditions. So this is a map of showing the cloud-free conditions globally in 4 seasons. We can see here, north of Africa and Asia, you have very high percentage of cloud-free conditions, which is good. You can use Morris and Morris. But here, or Middle Asia, you got very low cloud-free conditions, which the Morris and Morris data cannot be used. Cannot be used there. So this is the drawbacks. So another type of weather model is the another type of external data is the weather models. The weather model can provide also the global coverage of atmospheric delays product, and also but some local weather models only provide local coverage. For example, the UK Met Office weather model can provide only for the UK. The resolution can be very high from the weather models, can be a few kilometers, and the temporal resolution can also be very high, up to 1 hour or 6 hours, and it provides continuous product. And also, very importantly, insensitive to cloud, so you can use all weather conditions. And here the first weather model I want to introduce is the ERA interim. It's a very old weather model from the ECMWF analysis data. You can see from this example, this is original interprogram. This is an atmospheric delay predicted by the ERA interim model, and this is a residual map. You can see the performance is actually very good. This is the correlation between the phase and the ERA predicted atmospheric delay. You can see the high correlation, which means high performance, but it only captures the broad features like the long wavelength of the interprogram, and some local effects or the turbulence signals are missing from the ERA interim, and also it's less accurate over coastal areas because of the turbulence troposphere. And this is another example of using Wolf model, which is another very popular weather model. This original, the predicted delay and the residuals. Similarly, it do not capture the very local details of the troposphere because of maybe the resolution or the observations are not so dense, but it removes the long wavelength signal very well. And also, but it has very poor performance over mountain areas as well. And because there are so many weather models, we can compare them together. So this is here is an example of using different weather models. This is the data. This is from NARR, a weather model, ERA, and another weather model. Both of them has captured the long wavelength signals of the original interprogram, but the turbulence or the local effects of the atmospheric delays are missing from all of them because it's over smooth. All the weather models are over smoothed against the raw measurement. This is a typical problem of using weather models. And also there is a very recent weather model which comes from the high resolution ECMWF, which has a very improved spatial resolution of only 9 kilometers and 6-hour temporal resolution, also provided in near real time. Because using ERA, we have around 3 to 4 months of delay to download the product. But for high resolution ECMWF, we can get it in near real time. And this is some examples of using high resolution ECMWF. Because of the higher spatial resolution, maybe we can capture more detailed tropospheric turbulence signals. But another very important drawbacks of using weather model is the time differences. Because for ERA and for high resolution ECMWF, we have only 6-hour temporal resolution. So the RMS of the the performance of the weather model will be varied during this 6-hour interval. So you can see the RMS is can reach up to 2 centimeters in the middle of the 6-hour interval. This is because the time differences. But if you do a linear interpolation between time, you can reduce this effect, but still you got time difference effect. But this kind of effect can be improved in the near future because maybe in the near future we can get the 1-hour temporal resolution product from the weather model. There are a lot of new weather models which can provide 1-hour temporal resolution water vapor and delays. And this is using this is to emphasize the topography errors on small interprograms. We have seen this in interprograms previously. Very strong topography related errors on the small island, small landslide. This is because the very high topography variation, around 3 kilometers high. So this is a predicted correction from high resolution income dynamics. You can see it has a very high performance over this small region. And finally, we want to introduce the ground-based GPS receiver. The GPS receiver can provide real-time atmospheric delay, very high accuracy, and very high temporal resolution, only 5 minutes. So it's very high temporal resolution and also continuously. But because this is an example of UK, this is all the GPS receivers around the UK. Because the distribution of the GPS station is irregular and also very sparse sometimes. So it requires a very efficient spatial interpolator to get high resolution correction maps. There are many models to interpolate the GPS-based atmospheric delays. But here I introduce one of them. It divides the total tropospheric delay into 2 components. The one is very strongly correlated with elevation, and the other is not correlated with elevation. So we can separate these 2 components from the total delays and model them separately. So by doing this, we can improve the performance over rainy seasons where the troposphere is more turbulent. So we can get equivalent performances of the whole year. Also, we can get equivalent performances over flat regions and over coastal and mountain regions. And this is some examples of using GPS-based correction maps. The first column is the original interprograms. You can see very complicated atmospheric errors here and here, long wavelengths, and also some topography-related errors. And the middle column is the interprogram after corrected for the stratified component, which is only corrected for the elevation-dependent signal. And the last column is the after correction for the total delays. So the performance is very high because we have a very dense network here. The RMS difference, the RMS of the phase measurement against the GPS displacement reaches less than 1 centimeter. So the performance is very high. But one of the big problem for GPS is the station spacing. For example, for this interprogram, if we only have a very sparse GPS network of only 80 kilometer station spacing, we can have only 1.7 centimeter performance of the correction. But when we densify this network to around 40 kilometers, we got higher performance, and densify it even higher to 10 kilometers, we got less than 1 centimeter. So the denser the network, the higher the performance will be. So this is one of the biggest limitations of using GPS-based correction model, because typically we don't have this kind of dense network around the world. And this is a summary of using of this mentioned external data sets. For GPS, the performance of the GPS-based correction models are improving will be improved in the near future, because we have more and more GPS stations available. Now we have over 12,000 GPS stations globally, so it's improving. For the high resolution ECM demo, it's also improving because the spatial resolution and temporal resolution will improve in the near future. So we will expect that we have improved performance in the near future. But for ERA, the ECM has stopped to update the ERA interim, so we will got fixed performance. Will not improve in the near future because we have a substitute of new product from ECM. And for MODIS, actually we got the performance becoming worse and worse. This is because for the new SAR satellite, for example, Sentinel-1 or the LS2, there are huge time differences between the MODIS data and the SAR data. So the large time differences will introduce very unpredicted errors on your correction maps. So the performance is worse and worse. And comparing this for data sets, an immediate thought is to use combine 2 or 3 of them to further improve your performance. For example, we can combine GPS and MODIS because MODIS has a cloudy condition, and also it has a large time differences. But we can use GPS to fill the cloudy gaps on MODIS data, and also we can use GPS to reduce the time difference effects on MODIS data, so we can have an improved performance by combining these 2 data sets. This is a performance of combined GPS and MODIS correction. And also we can combine the GPS with high resolution ECM WMF to reduce the time differences effect and improve the turbulence signal estimation, because GPS provides continuous atmospheric delay estimates, so it can capture more detailed tropospheric turbulence signal. So when combined these 2, we got a very improved performance of atmospheric correction, much better than the GPS only and the ECMWF only models. And to conclude all these models, we can only highlight focus on the limitations of each model. The space-based model, the limitations are sensitive to cloud and daytime only, and also the time differences. And ground-based GPS, the only limitations is the coverage. So you get very low, maybe you will have very low density and distribution of the GPS network. And for weather models, you have a problem of time differences, and also you will have an over smooth problem on your predicted atmospheric delay. And this is all the correction models on the single program. But we can use another method in time series to estimate the tropospheric delays in time series analysis. The benefit of using InSAR time series is that we have redundant observations. So for a specific time period, we can have a lot of programs available. So we can check for the unwrapping error, and also we can remove the orbital ramp using a network solution, and we can estimate the DM error as well in the time series. And most importantly, we can reduce or mitigate the atmospheric error in the time series more easily. All these measures are based on the spatial temporal filters in the time series analysis. There are 2 fundamental assumptions in the time series analysis. The first is the deformation signal are correlated in time and in space, so you can estimate it. But the atmospheric errors are correlated in space but not in time. So we can use the temporal filter to filter out the atmospheric errors in time. So that's the assumptions for time series. This is a very simple time series analysis model, which assumes a linear velocity model, deformation model, and this parameter is the APS, which means the atmospheric error, and the orbital ramps in linear component of the atmospheric error. This is a residual. If the atmospheric error is indeed random in time. So we can filter out the turbulence APS component in the residual. So we can have a very high accuracy of velocity mapping. For example, in this figure, the residual seems to be very random. So we can estimate the velocity very easily. Also, we can use another more advanced model. If we have a series of interprograms, we can use the models we have introduced previous using Maris or using high resolution ECMWF. We can use these models to correct our interprograms first, and then we can do the time series filters. For example, for this data set, we have 27 days in total, but only 25 days we have the Maris data available for these 25 days. So we can correct the atmospheric errors for these 25 days. But there are 2 days when the Maris data is not available. So we can use this network to estimate the atmospheric errors on these 2 days. This is the estimated atmospheric errors on these 2 days. This is one example. This is estimated atmospheric errors on interprogram. This is before correction and after correction. And this is another date of the estimated errors and before correction and after correction. We can compare the estimated atmospheric errors with the Maris data. We can see clearly that it's not biased. So it has a very high correlation, which means you have a very good estimation of the atmospheric errors. And to conclude this lecture, we have introduced what is the atmospheric error, and we have provided many solutions, but all of them has its own advantages and drawbacks, and you have to decide which one to use. And also we have some combination of different data sets. You can try some of these methods with the training software in the following practical part, which you will have a more understanding, better understanding of this method. And we should always be aware of the limitations of this method. For example, the coverage, the Maris and MODIS coverage, the GPS coverage, and the availability and the efficiency of each model. And the most importantly, the performance, because sometimes it's very hard to quantify the performance of each model. We don't have the ground truth of your interprograms. And the real-time availability, only GPS provides real-time availability, and the ECMWF provide near real-time, which means 1 or 2 days delay. The other external data sets cannot provide real-time. And the accuracy, the most important is the accuracy of each measure. And also I want to introduce a very simple tool called the Geckos, which means it's an online service. You can visit it here. You can scan the barcode or the website, and it's globally available in near real time. So you can try it on your own program. It's very simple to use. It's based on the GPS and the high resolution ECMWF. And for what the goal of atmospheric correction is for an interprogram extending 250 kilometers by 250 kilometers. It's a very large interprogram. The total delays would be 2 meters typically. After spatial temperature difference, you will get 5 to 20 centimeters of atmospheric delay. After correction, either by Maris, MODIS, or by GPS, by weather models, we want to achieve around 1 centimeter accuracy of your interprogram. And then you can use a time series filter to achieve further millimeter level velocity mapping. That's the whole purpose of our atmospheric correction models. Okay, I think I'm finished here.
So it's a coffee break in about 10 minutes. Did anyone have any questions? I think Chen is going to be heading back to Newcastle pretty soon.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions, ask now or maybe during coffee.
You show some example of tropospheric delay, but like very long wavelength.
Yeah.
Looks like RAM, for example.
Yeah, looks like RAM.
Why is that?
Because I think so. This is a very old star satellite. You can you see here, right? This one.
Yeah, for example,
This one.
was one in Nigeria.
Yeah, this could come from the atmospheric error, but also could come from the optical error because it's the same. It's all in long wavelength. Because maybe we don't have the precise orbit for this satellite. It's a very old satellite, so it can be orbital range, can be atmospheric error, but all of this can be removed by this 2D surface. But you have a risk to remove the extra movement by using it.
Yeah. Like for example, in your paper on geckos,
Yeah.
it shows that the CMWF or error will correlate to photography, and
Yeah.
the turbulent part look like a web.
Yeah.
So I was wondering why the turbulent signal could look like a web.
Oh, the turbulent signal. Yeah, and the definition of the turbulent signal is quite maybe different people will give you different definitions. In our own paper, we define the turbulent signal as all the signals that is not correlated with topography. That's our turbulent signal. But actually, maybe some people will tell you the turbulent signal is only from the turbulent shock wave. It's random or it's complicated, not long wavelength. It's only short wavelength. Yeah, this just about the definition. In our paper, we refer all the signals that is not correlated with topography as turbulent signals. We do not confine the turbulent signal as only short wavelength. Actually, maybe in some atmospheric science areas, they will refer the short wavelength signals as turbulent signals. This is just a different definition of turbulent signal.
Sorry, I have a question. So when you compare the INSAR with the atmospheric models and GPS,
yeah.
In atmospheric models and GPS, we have the total delay. And then in INSAR, basically, you are sensing in the line of sight.
Yeah.
So how could you remove to correct the line of sight?
We just do a simple mapping function. We map the zenith direction to the line side. You can use a very simple mapping cosine theta using elevation angle or incidence angle of line side to map to the line side direction. Or you can use a complicated one, for example, the GMF mapping function to map the zenith direction to your line side direction. It's all compared on line side direction, not on zenith direction.
Do you think it's correct to look at the functional relationship between the geckos for data?
What data? Influence. Yeah. To look at the correlations of the correction delays, the gecko's delays, and the phase measurement. It's just a way to look at whether the estimated delay is correct or not. It's just an indicator. It's not a statistic method to validate the performance, but it's just an indicator. If it is highly correlated, you have a high chance you will correct this interval very correctly.
What I mean by that is, for example, just mentioned that what we have is a little delay and we want to project it to the right side.
Yeah.
So it's more or less linear correlation between zinc and loss.
Then it's
by doing an estimating a linear relationship between the data and applying the linear correction.
Yeah.
Better than applying just
mapping.
mapping.
We do all these measures on line side, not on zenith. We firstly we will map our zenith delays onto line side direction, then do the linear corrections. So all these measures are based on line side direction, not zenith direction.
So what is spatial temporal difference in atmospheric condition? So can you describe more detail on that?
the spatial temporal differences.
Yes, I don't know what it is. So how does it work?
What do you mean? How does this is just some examples?
In the final slide, you summarize different effects.
Because the InSAR measurements are spatial temporal difference, so we only concerns about the spatial temporal difference, not the absolute value. That is why we because by differencing in time and in space, most of the dry component will be cancelled. So it's the magnitude of the atmospheric delay will become smaller than the this is absolute value. After spatial temporal difference, most of the dry component, some of the wet component may be cancelled by the differencing. Spatial temporal difference.
So it means that we compute the difference between different pixels.
Between the same pixels. Firstly, between the same pixels, but in different time, and then different pixels. Yeah, okay. in space and in time.
Okay, so it's affect to the dry pattern.
It will cancel both. Mostly the dry component. What do you mean? The dry component is more stable than the wet component, so it can be cancelled more easily by temporal difference.
Thank you very much.